Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another race in the Big Data Beards virtual race to Splunk.conf 20. Today's race, we are at the beautiful and historic storied track at 24 Hours of Le Mans, home of some of the most exciting racing in history. But today's race is brought to us by our friends at Dell Technologies. And with us today is a longtime friend of the Big Data Beard team, Anthony Dina. Anthony is the Director of AI, Data Analytics, and HPC at Dell. Anthony, welcome to the virtual race to .conf.
Oh, I appreciate it. And by the way, we were friends long before I had the beard. So let's be clear about the history.
I tell you what, it's looking good. It's looking strong. And the color is looking a lot like mine, although I think I probably am graying earlier. I'm graying a little earlier. So you're doing really good, buddy. Looks handsome. And you still got all your hair, so you're winning. We already know that.
Winning.
Well, that's right. That's right. That's what we're here for today. So, hey, Anthony, tell me a little bit about the team that you lead there at Dell.
Well, we are industry professionals around data engineering and data science, but really can speak the fluid language of IT. Because at the end of the day, when you do a project, you got to put it somewhere. And our job is to make sure that it runs well and it runs effectively and it runs a really long time. And it's one of the reasons why we spent a lot of time with the Splunk engineering team and with other gracious members from Splunk to make sure that we're having a unified recommendations for it. So that's what we do. We're about 40 people big, and we're aligned in North America against territories. So, if you got an opportunity, we're free that day.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about when your team gets involved. Like, what is the, what's the strategy that Dell brings to the table in terms of helping customers, not only achieve success with Splunk, but as you think about, kind of broader data analytics and high performance computing, projects, those things are starting to coalesce so much. Kind of what's the strategy for Dell Technologies in this area?
Well, it's interesting. I kind of feel like every once in a while we're goldfish and we don't recognize that we're swimming in the water. Mm-hmm. If you just get into this environment, for example, if you're brand new to Splunk, it's not as simple as you just put the code down and let it go. There are discrete choices at the index search and the persistent store that makes a huge difference. And because we do this every day, all day, and with many customers, we can short cycle your design phase. And so that's where we spend a lot of energy, is really translating what the business objective is, the code and data that you're working, and how we put it to best use.
Absolutely. Now, in general, though, I'm curious from your perspective, you get to talk with customers of all shapes and sizes, kind of all over the Americas. Tell me a little bit about any kind of interesting trends that you're seeing in the world of AI, because it's one of those buzzwords. It's a macro sort of trend. Splunk talks about being in the data age, but I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of the interesting trends that you'd tell us that we ought to be watching out for in the next few years?
Well, certainly voice is going to be over the top, just in general. So we're going to interface more frequently with, a computer assistant, if you will. We'll book appointments for beard trims with a computer assistant as soon as we get back to a full beard trim, but it's not available in Austin. Someday we can all dream. Anyways. So that's in general, but here's what's interesting. And I look at industries that are specifically human intensive, like in healthcare, you have tons of doctors, nurses, administrators, et cetera. Or you look at manufacturing where people are assembling ingredients. Those are places where IT has not played a seminal role. We know that web technology companies, financial services, they understand how powerful and differentiating that IT can be. But these other industries, this is where the big opportunity is. And so imagine not just a telepresence with your doctor, but you're getting your genome sequenced, you're getting more precision recommendations on what you should take from a supplement perspective, as well as if you've got something that just didn't turn out right, you're not feeling well. How can we get the right prescription to you that's effective for you and not just, 7 out of 10 people it works for?
Yeah.
So those are some of the exciting things that I think are going to change how we live in this world.
Absolutely. Well, conf is just around the corner. I know Dell Technologies has a big presence, great partnership every year there. What are you excited about in the partnership between Dell and Splunk, and kind of what's happening at .conf this year?
Well, so one of the things that I'm always excited about is how we are taking the next generation of architectures to market together. So, I mean, Smart Store had its big fanfare in the last couple of years. We're seeing more and more interest because the amount of data that we are splunking is overwhelming. And when we look at the largest deployments where there's consolidation happening, we're pushing the envelope on how do we get and optimize our spend so that we can take advantage and be compliant with regulators, or make sure we have the best application experience for our customers, or just keep us safe. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making sure you get the best outcome for what you have. It's the bang for the buck story.
Absolutely. Well, I'm hoping that the outcome goes well for our team today. Look for the beautiful Dell Technologies car out there. It's wearing some beautiful magenta shoes in honor of breast cancer awareness. So definitely check out the Dell Technologies McLaren. And I know you guys are a big partner with McLaren
Yeah.
as well as Arrow and Splunk. So it's cool to have all of us working together here. But Anthony, the time has come for us to get this race kicked off. Would you please do us the honors, sir?
You bet. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine.
Well, folks, we are excited to get the racing underway here in France for the 24 Hours at Le Mans course. And I tell you what, one of the interesting things about this track, it is a super long track and really hard to qualify. And you saw the leaders there in the polls were the few folks that were actually able to put down qualifying laps on a really challenging course. But that pace car is underway and is going to get the group off bunched up well to get the racing action started. And just as you expect, they're starting to warm up those tires, because we know what happens in those first turns if things aren't warmed up.
Yeah, Corey, and let's just take a look at the leaderboard here. So we have McLaren 2 starting us off. Then we have a couple racers from Splunk, the Enterprise Security and the IT Splunk car. And then you are wrapping up fourth place there.
Buddy, I got lucky. It's one of those where if you run a clean lap, you know, we've talked about it in many, many races, clean laps and clean racing is key to positioning yourself well. So I got lucky there. But yeah, McLaren 2, that's Tomic, one of the Shadow Esports drivers from McLaren, that is going to be leading us off.
Yeah, and Corey, you know, you talked about the importance of placing and where you are in the leaderboard, but I think this track, out of all the tracks we've raced so far, it's critically important to run that clean lap in qualifying, because, you know, we only have 10 minutes to qualify, and this is a very long course. So if you don't run that first lap properly, and you won't be able to qualify, and you're going to be in the back of the pack. And as we've seen so many times already in this virtual race to conf, if you start in the back, you might hit some cars, or you might wreck your car very early.
Yeah, a lot of action there. And one thing to note, that if your folks are students of the racing game and are aficionados of the track here, we are actually running in what's called the historic configuration. And that means that back in the Mulsanne Straits, we have pulled out the chicanes and we've left the straightaways there. And so when Brett talks about a long track, we've got crazy long straightaways there where you're going to have the car just absolutely flying for a long period.
Yeah, Corey, and you know, this is a tale of the straightaways, right? We have 3 very long straightaways on this course, and this is the first time we've really been able to have a proper straightaway in one of our races, right? The last 3 races have been full of hairpin turns, sharp turns. We really haven't gotten into that 6th gear. So today we're going to really see these cars open it up, spend a lot of time at top speeds. And what's that going to do?
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see the differences in the cars, the drivers, and it's also one of those areas where, man, if you get any of that damage just from a little bumping around in action, really has some damage. Oh, look at there. One of our top 3 cars already off the track, just leaving that front straightaway. Folks, we have talked about it. These first couple of turns in every race seem formative in the overall outcome of the race, as really you got to let things warm up, and, man, the action gets hot every now and then.
Yeah, Corey, and I think this is a great time to talk about what those keys of the race are for today. And Corey, you need to bust out your bar of soap, because you said it already. The key to the race today is running a clean race. We've talked about this. There's a lot of long straightaways, and if you have any damage to your car, you're not going to be able to hit that top speed on these very multi-mile straightaways, or you won't be able to keep the car straight, as we've seen time and time again. And if you damage your car too much, you might have to get towed. And when we're talking about an 8.3 mile track, that's a long tow time that could really knock you out of the race very early.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, looks like that BMW is holding its own there, gets a little bit of drafting coverage, pulling away there nicely from the team, which is quite surprising. We weren't sure we'd see that, but there you go. There you're seeing the cars go past where the first of those traditional chicanes in the latest rendition of the Circuit of Le Mans would be existing. They're not there today. Now, Brett, this track's actually not called the Circuit of Le Mans. What's the French term for it again?
Yeah, actually, Le Mans is the city in which the track is at, but it's actually called the Circuit de la Sarthe, and that's the province of where Le Mans resides in France.
Absolutely. Well, obviously one of the most storied tracks in all of motorsports. The topic of conversation, or the topic of a movie, Ford versus Ferrari, actually, and I would argue, while a great movie, one of the even better books, Go Like Hell, the book it's based on, absolutely a must read. And here we see some great racing action.
Yeah, and what we're seeing, we're not seeing Ford versus Ferrari right now. We're seeing BMW versus McLaren in this really tight race right now.
Absolutely. Well, they come out of those straights. You start to enter what is really the most interesting part of the course, which is the back half of the course, where you go through not only a set of, kind of sweeping turns, some shorter straightaways, but it brings us up to the Porsche Straits before we get back up to the front of the track. And I tell you what, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch here.
Yeah, Corey, and we've talked about how the straightaways are so important, and with McLaren having a greater top speed and some greater acceleration, that's going to impact the BMW. But I'm going to be interested to see how the BMW fares on these turns.
Yeah, absolutely. And the replay there just showing that Splunk security car going off in the first turn, really formative. And you can see dropping back all the way to position number 11. Now we've got Buttercup here finding his way up. That's it's always fun to watch. We've got Stephen Landry behind the wheel. Jason Stein had been driving in a couple of the other races, but Stephen Landry finding his way into the Buttercup car. And the Splunk App Dev car goes off in one of those back turns, losing a number of positions, and we see it shaking up there. Corey and Westy battling it out. We're having a little fun between the beards. I tell you what, I've been tired of ending up behind Westy over these couple of races. But I tell you what, let's go check in with Kyle for our tech deep dive on the HTTP event collector that's critical for us today.
Thanks, team. Welcome to today's tech overview, where we provide a behind-the-scenes look at the technology that makes today's virtual race to conf possible. Today we're going to take a look at the HTTP event collector and how we use that to get data in. But before that, special thanks to our sponsor Dell Technologies. Let's dive right in. Now, because HTTP event collector became such an important part for us, I thought it would be good to kind of show what it is, how to get data in, and how we used it with our script. So to start, here's our Splunk enterprise interface. And from that, you click up to Settings, Data Inputs, the HTTP event collector, select Add New, give it a generic name, so we'll call this just generic, and then click Next. You can then select automatic source type, whatever you'd like. I'd recommend automatic. We'll put it in just a specific index. Any will do to your preference, and then click Submit. Now from here, you're given a specific token right here. This is to be treated like a secret key. You do not want to share this or do exactly what I'm doing right now, but don't worry, we'll be deleting this right after we record it. So what you want to do with that then is provide that token back. So let's take a look at that data input as a whole. So we're going to click into the HTTP event collector tokens. And from here you can see that we've blurred out some of these because we're still using them. However, the one that we'll focus on right here is the generic one. And you can see that what we need to do is select the source type as JSON, since this is a JSON payload, and then we'll push select. And I'll show you why exactly here in just a moment. Now we are using the standard 8088 port for HTTP, however you can change that up here in global settings. Splunk does have pretty good documentation on how to handle this, so you can take a look here. It's pretty easily searchable, but we'll also include a link to it. Now one thing to call out at the bottom here is sending data via HTTP event collector to your Splunk enterprise. And I like this as a little bit of a cheat sheet here because it shows what protocol you need, what host you're running, the port that you want to run it on, and then the endpoint. A specific thing to call out here is that services collector is specific for JSON notation. However, services collector raw is best for raw events. Now, they also show you a little bit on how to do it down here with Splunk Enterprise and self-service Splunk Cloud, or if you're going through a managed Splunk Cloud. Now, I'd like to show you where exactly in our code it fit. As you can see right here, we followed the protocol, the URL name, the port number, and then since we're doing JSON, the services/collector. From there, we're also authorizing it with the username Splunk, and then the hex token value that we declare at the top of our script. Now, we deployed this across all of our instances for the racers as they were running the sim, but we just changed out the racer names so that way we could see the data populate in the dashboards that you're viewing right now during the race. I hope this was a helpful overview of the HTTP event collector today. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Tomorrow we'll be providing an overview of our Splunk Enterprise environment. But that's all for us today. Special thanks again to our sponsor Dell Technologies. Back to you on the track.
Well, thanks, Kyle. It's always good to hear more about how the iRacing data is finding its way into Splunk, and the Big Data Beard team is certainly excited to be leading the way and getting this exciting racing platform and the data to everything platform married up for a lot of fun here at .conf. Well, I do want to make sure that we say a big thank you to our sponsor for today's race, the team at Dell Technologies, obviously a great partner to Splunk, powering some really great platforms for customers deploying Splunk. And Brett, I know your day job is actually at Dell Technologies. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what you do and maybe the things you're excited about at .conf?
Yeah, not just me, Corey. Actually, Kyle Prins also works for Dell in his day job, and Kyle and I are both data analytics systems engineers.
I want to jump in real quick. I don't know if you noticed there, but Tom West just had a nasty wreck that really takes him out, and he ends up having to go back into the pits. Look at that spin, completely out, damages the car. Oh, he's hung up. He is in bad shape.
Yeah, it looks like the turns are really having a big impact on the McLarens today. Again, they're getting a lot of gains on the straightaways, but they're giving it up on those turns.
Absolutely. Well, Brett, I'm sorry I interrupted. You want to hear more about what you and Kyle are doing for the team at Dell?
Yeah, so like I said, we're data analytics systems engineers, and our job is to help organizations that are looking to deploy workloads around data analytics, things like Splunk, for example, and help them understand the impacts of infrastructure and how you can actually deploy infrastructure to manage these data analytics workloads.
Absolutely. We see the Dell Technologies car getting tied up with the Splunk ES car. Remember, Splunk ES, one of the top 3 cars in qualifying, now getting tangled up again in a little bit of challenge in the back.
Dell and Splunk, great partners, but they also like to be next to each other on the track as well.
Absolutely, they do. Now, Brett, you've got an exciting session this year planned for .conf. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what you're going to be presenting on?
Yeah, absolutely. So for all of you Star Trek aficionados out there, the session is called I'm Giving Her All She's Got, Admin, Architecture Best Practices and Deployment Considerations for a Growing Splunk. And the session is on Tuesday, October 20th from 3:30 to 4 Pacific time. And it's all about this idea that Splunk evolves within organizations and it grows, and how do you manage growth from a performance and a capacity standpoint, and what are some of those deployment considerations and best practices to think about, knowing that your Splunk deployment is going to grow over the years.
Absolutely. Well, looking forward to hearing that. Honestly, one of the excitements about .conf is that a chance to learn. And I know in your role and with the team at Dell, you get to talk with customers of all sizes and sort of all disparate shapes. So it'd be interesting to hear your experiences there.
Yeah, and just a little maybe teaser, maybe not. If you join the session, you'll find out I might or might not be wearing Spock ears. Who knows, but you're going to have to join the session to find out.
Well, buddy, I hope you live long and prosper regardless. But Tomic here from the McLaren Shadow Esports team is absolutely continuing to lead the way, building a little bit of a buffer, but not one that, looks like insurmountable. The team from Splunk IT and Buttercup certainly hanging right in there with just, less than 15 seconds apart there.
Yeah, now, Corey, this race is different than our past races so far in that we're running a 45-minute race. Why are we doing that?
Yeah, so part of the reason we wanted to run a 45-minute race was, frankly, because this track is just so long. We wanted to give the cars a chance to really stretch their legs a little bit. And we also wanted to give the chance for the racers to be challenged by that a little bit of an additional time on track, and thought that it'd be nice to just really introduce something that didn't make it as easy every time for the racers to have a predictable 30-minute race.
Yeah, and when we talk about race endurance, I mean, honestly, I had to prepare for this race. 45 minutes in the race car seat, a lot of time.
It is, and candidly, some of these race car simulation seats, they're just about as comfortable as you'd expect a racing seat to be. And I'll be honest, I went with a little bit lower priced racing simulator seat, thinking, we shouldn't spend too much money, and I really am regretting that immediately.
Now, Corey, did you wear your race car seatbelt?
Mine actually didn't come with seatbelts, although I know a few of them did. But Brett, I'm pretty sure your experience with the racing simulator seat might have been a little bit different. Would you mind explaining?
Yeah, I wish I had a seatbelt. So I have, I live in a condo in Boston, and so space is a consideration. So I needed a seat that could collapse. And the seat that I purchased did just that, but it also collapsed when I was sitting on it once and trying to race. So imagine trying to take some of these turns with a broken seat.
That's too bad. I hate to hear that, but honestly, that's been one of the fun things is to see the each of the folks we talked to about their racing simulators. And there we see the Red River car taking a big spill. That is too bad. We're going to go back and see this in replay, see what happened there. Getting some speed here in the straightaways. The problem with these Mulsanne Straits is if you have any steering damage, you get to that high speed, boy, can it cause real problems. And there you see just unable to brake or to turn, and they're going to have to use one of their fast repairs. As we talked about before, you can get a tow that's kind of a quick tow, but you can also get a quick repair.
Yeah, but Corey, that is about 2 or 3 minutes from the pit, so that tow is going to eat up some time and going to cause them to lose position.
Absolutely. Now here we see I'm fighting my way up into the third position, have overtaken the Splunk IT car, but they are not going to let me keep that position safely. It's going to be a little bit of a battle here. Now the challenge here is that as we talked about, the BMW seems like it's a pretty easy ride through the Porsche curves there at the back of the track, but here you're absolutely seeing on display the power of that McLaren car on display in straightaways.
Now, Corey, it looks like that McLaren is doing a little drafting there. Is drafting going to play any impact in performance of the race car?
Absolutely. Drafting is always an interesting concept where you tuck in behind a car, get that, that vacuum to pull you around the track, the car ahead of you. But candidly, in this scenario, I think you're going to see that the McLaren is just a superior race car. The aerodynamics are significantly better. The power to weight ratio is a little bit better. And really what you're going to find is that car is just going to walk away and leave that BMW in these back straightaways. But you know what? Let's go in and find out what the data tells us.
Corey, I gotta say, you guys were duking it out, but that McLaren's overtaking you, so I wanted to drop into the data and let's see exactly what happened there. So I went ahead and logged into our instance, pulled up the Splunk IT and yourself on our lap, and you can see right in the middle here, we've got our giant back straightaway on Le Mans. And what you can see here is the overall speed. Corey's in the dark blue, Splunk IT in the light. And what we're showing here is that while they're both appearing to take off and accelerate at the same time, that McLaren seems to have a bit better top speed range and be able to sustain longer. The other thing I want to showcase here as well, Corey, is that it looks like you're braking a little bit too early compared to the McLaren car on that turn, so they're able to grab a couple extra seconds around you as well. We'll take a look at the braking as well to see if it follows the theory that we have going so far. Alright, now with the brakes loaded up, let's take a look right here in the middle of this lap and see what's going on from the brakes. You can see, Corey, a little bit, you tapped the brakes on the front end there, whereas Splunk IT did a quick forceful brake to shed that speed off to be able to handle that turn. So, part of it is the car, but as well, part of it's the braking as well. So let's see how the rest of the race goes. Back to you on the track.
Well, thanks, Kyle. It's good to start to understand really the mechanical advantage that McLaren has showing up so clearly in the data. Oh, no, looky here. We've got Buttercup, the number 2 car in the race so far, going into the wall, losing the bonnet, losing the front fairings. That is going to play a hectic role in the back of this course. You can already see another spin because of that damage.
Yeah, and it looks like the Porsche Turns takes another victim as that McLaren, without any contact, spins out.
Absolutely. Well, it's a big thing for me moving into third place, making up for for the car that's not quite as fast as you said, Brett. bring your bar of soap. You got to have a clean race. And I tell you what, those small mistakes back in that back half can be terrible. But the benefit here is that the Splunk car, if you're going to wreck, that's the place to do it, because you know what you are? Close to the pit lane, and that's where you can get those fast repairs really rapidly to get back in the race as quick as possible.
Yeah, Corey, I think this is definitely one of those tracks where you want to utilize those fast repairs if you have any damage at all. Again, even 2 or 3 miles per hour less than your top speed because of any incidents is really going to affect you on those straightaways.
Absolutely. Well, as we see the pack back there in 10th start to fight its way, middle of the pack's always fun to watch. Let's go check in with our first guest, an actual Frenchman from the Dell Technologies team, to give us a little bit of a chat.
Thanks, Corey. I'm here with Thierry Pellegrino, who is the VP of Data-Centric Workloads and Solutions at Dell ISG. Thierry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Brett. How are you?
Doing great. So I hear you are a big racing fan. Tell us a little bit about what kind of tracks you're into, what kind of racing you're into.
Sure. I mean, anything on 4 wheels, preferably than 2 wheels. But getting into some of the Formula One races or even the Ferrari Challenge at times has been extremely exciting. You see the quality of the driving in those races and the ever-changing format. You see Formula One going from all gas-powered to partially electric, the new rules here and there. I've been watching races since I was a little kid, 5 years old with my dad. So it's in my DNA.
Oh, that's awesome. So you've been watching it for a long time now. Not to say that it's been a long time, but you've watched it for a long time. What's your favorite track?
Well, hey, my favorite track, given I was born and raised in France, will have to be Le Mans. I mean, amazing, has seen some of the best races. For those of you movie buffs out there, I really encourage you to go watch the movie Ford versus Ferrari, and I'm not getting a royalty out of that. But it is, between the 24 hours of Le Mans and just the setting, it is one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah, and everyone watching today, you get to experience this track. We're running the historic track today, so no chicanes in the back straightaway, which is always good. But it's been a very exciting race so far, and we're excited to see who polls today. So Thierry, I want to get into some of the questions around what Dell Technologies is doing, and I want to start with understanding what Dell Technologies' strategy is around solutions.
Oh, absolutely. Look, the first thing I'll say is that the title of the organization that I lead, which is Data-Centric Workloads and Solutions, kind of gives you a hint. At Dell Technologies, we've known for a long while that data is the most valuable commodity for our customers. And look at some of the numbers out there. I'm going to play the bit game with all of you. 2.5 quintillion bytes of data created each day. And just as an example, take the healthcare industry. 2.3 exabytes of data just this year, according to IDC. And I guarantee you that with COVID, that number is going to keep going up. But the point is, when we think solutions at Dell Technologies, we look at solutions as a way to solve customer problems. And we really think that data is at the core of how you solve problems. From HPC solutions to AI solutions to solutions tied to large databases, data analytics, everything comes together. And the way we want to solve solutions for our customers is bring all the elements of our portfolio together. So a lot of IP, innovation, just amazing engineering work being done, and then bring in our partners for the aspects of the solution stack that we don't own as our own IP. And as an example, that's where Splunk is an amazing partner for us because the technology that they bring and the stack that they bring on top of our infrastructure and some elements of the stack that we design is fulfilling the needs of our customers to solve their problems.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I want to double click on that a little bit. Now, when we talk about the explosion of data, and a lot of that is unstructured data, and obviously Splunk is a leading platform in this unstructured machine-generated data, and they have this data to everything mantra. How does Splunk fit and Dell fit in together? How does this come together to build a solution that's helping our customers?
Yeah, so as I said, Splunk is a key partner for our data-centric workloads and solutions business. They have one of the leading platforms that help our customers harness their machine-generated data, as you stated. But they're also there to help develop reference architectures, white papers, and solution briefs to help our customers. I mean, you can't expect everybody to be an expert at the Dell technology portfolio or the Splunk technology and stack. So we collaborate engineer to engineer, roll up our sleeves. We layer Splunk on our solutions. We look at performance bottlenecks, best practices in deployment, at times scripting, and just overall lifecycle ownership of a Dell technology solutions leveraging Splunk.
Yeah, and I think that's really the true value of where the partnership is, right? Splunk is one of these workloads that's very data intensive. It's also very compute intensive, but it's something that needs infrastructure and needs infrastructure in the right way. So that's where I see Dell coming in, is that we're helping customers remove that bottleneck, right? Can you talk a little bit about the history of the partnership? Because I think that's really important to show how we've evolved and how we've helped organizations over the years become more dynamic and scalable with Splunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've been great partners since 2015. So it is 5 years of collaboration. So we understand the technology, the IP, and all the work that Splunk has put into their offering, and they're starting to know our portfolio very well too. And all this is really value for our customers. We're trying, for example, if you're running a nonprofit organization, do you really want to go and have to go figure out all the intricacies on having the right infrastructure plus the right configuration in order to get to your data and drive value as a nonprofit? You probably don't. So you want the experts at Splunk, the experts at Dell Technologies to come together. And over 5 years, I can tell you that we work really well together, and we can just get the best value for our customers, where they can really focus on what gives them their personal value to their own customers.
Yeah, so it's been a great 5 years, but looking into the future, what are you excited about with regards to Dell and Splunk in the partnership?
I think Dell Technologies got some really purposeful solutions for our customers, leveraging our Dell Technologies, either from our IP or Splunk's IP, and we want to continue to innovate. So we're listening a lot. Today, as I said in the intro, we've got COVID going on, and there's a lot of data being created by everybody. And it's important to tailor the needs of our customers to either the vertical aspect or the industry that they're in. So you're going to continue to see Dell and Splunk create joint solutions together across multiple industries. And also you're going to see us continue to look for ways to innovate together. Unique, better together setups and features are going to be extremely valuable to our customers. And look, I'm talking about an example of a nonprofit organization in the large global financial institutions. We're collaborating and building modern infrastructure for those type of institutions to scale their Splunk environment to address variation in audit requirements and acquisition, that type of stuff. So when we collaborate on a particular area, what we want to keep doing is optimizing, turning the knobs, getting really good at time to value, quick deployment, quick insights into the data, scaling. Because I started playing the gazillion bits bingo at the beginning, but solutions that scale beyond what we know today are going to be important, and then just integrating all technologies. So Splunk is great at what they do. We're great at what we do in terms of enabling the full stack. But there's a lot of technology out there that continues to evolve, from compute to storage to I/O, and even operating systems, frameworks. Who thought that containers was going to be the way everybody thinks about deploying applications in the future? But that's the reality. So we're going to have to bring all those different trends of the industries in that collaboration. But 5 years of doing that, of collaborating, brought a lot of engineers together to do what they do best, faster. So I'm really excited about the pace of innovation that we can bring in through that partnership.
No, I am absolutely excited as well. I think that some of these technologies that are out there are really going to help organizations, to your point, seamlessly scale grow and get the most out of their data using Splunk on Dell Technologies. So I'm super excited about what the future is going to hold as well. Now, Splunk's user conference, .conf 2020, is just a few days away from now. What does Dell's presence look like at the conference this year?
Well, Brett, we're a diamond sponsor at the event again this year. We put our money where our mouth is. We like the partnership with Splunk, so we're going to be participating in a big way, like we've done in the past. We'll highlight the variety of our key solutions. I gave you the high level, but we'll have really smart people, specialists that'll be available to chat and answer. And even if this is virtual, that there's a lot of access to the smart brains during those conferences. That's really important. We're gonna show off also something that to me is another demonstration of how we value Splunk. We built our own app for Idrac that is leveraging Splunk. And that app, what does it do? It brings telemetry data from our powered servers to help organizations look at mission critical servers and applications that are highly available. And all that we're hearing from the folks that have used that app is IT admins really love it. They're addressing issues that were negatively affecting them in the past, and all this based on Splunk. So that's another thing that we'll be showcasing. And I really encourage everybody to come and visit our virtual booth when the conference starts.
So that's super exciting. I'm really excited about an app for Idrac. It's going to help get a lot of the telemetry data into the hands of the people that can make decisions. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. I highly encourage everyone to stop by the Dell booth and check that out. Thierry, it's been great chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us. And also, hopefully you can join us for some racing, some virtual racing while we're at the conference. So thank you so much.
I would love to. Look, I'm a big F1 fan, and a little prop here. I hope Mr. Leclerc does well with the Ferrari car at the next races. And let me end on a good note. Let's have Dell Technologies and Splunk rock the data age together.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the track. And Corey, back to you.
Well, thanks, Brett. Great to hear from Thierry about all the great things the team at Dell is doing to support Splunk customers. And here we see the McLaren one car, Dan Mckeown, getting into the wall. That is challenging. You hate to see that coming out of it. Now, Brett, I will say we saw just before the end of the interview there, you met the wall a little bit. Did you go farming again?
Well, Corey, I have some goals for this virtual race to conf, and one of them is to be in the grass or be off the track in every single country in which we have a race. I just had to do it while I had a little bit of a lead on Kyle.
There you go. Well, I'm pretty sure the other goal was you just really wanted to beat Kyle. So as long as you can maintain that position, I'm pretty sure we're going to end happy. And candidly, I think all of us are pretty excited with the way the race is turning out. As I think we're all being far more competitive than maybe we thought we were, which makes me quite proud of the whole team. But I tell you what, it shouldn't come as any surprise that Tomic from the Shadow Esports team is just absolutely continuing to build a gap. There we see Niall, our friend driving the Aero car, struggling with the wall again. And that's Buttercup gets in the wall. That's not good. Again, one of those top 4 qualifiers getting in the wall.
I talked to him before the race, and he also had a goal of being in the grass in every country as well. So he just checked France off the list as well, Corey.
We're just making dreams come true here at the Big Data Beards virtual race to .conf. And one of the things that I'm excited to talk about around .conf is the idea of the boss of the knock scenarios. And I don't know if there's a lot of folks who maybe are new to .conf. Clearly, in this virtual conf idea, there's going to be a lot of folks who've never been able to participate as accessibly in .conf as they are this year. And man, I tell you what, at .conf, one of the exciting things is this boss of the knock and boss of the sock scenario challenges. Those are taking place on Monday, October 19th. You can sign up if you just go over to conf.splunk.com, and at the top of the website, there's a little tab that says Connect, and that's where you find the boss of the knock scenarios. Well, the reason why I bring those up is, one, I think they're a super fun way to gamify the experience of learning to use Splunk to really solve problems. At boss of the knock being around IT operations, boss of the SOC being around security operations. But one of the things that we work closely with the boss of the knock team to do is include iRacing data pulled from one of our races to actually highlight using some of your basic Splunk skills, really a 101 level insert to start to play with Splunk to truly bring data to everything.
Yeah, Corey, I just want to emphasize that this is for everyone of all levels of Splunk capabilities. I highly encourage everyone to check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to really dive into the data and ask or get the answers to the questions in the Data to Everything platform. So please check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you just go to conf.splunk.com, and if you're watching this and you don't know what that is, it's an awesome technology conference. First time ever being completely virtual, free to all who want to attend, and there's going to be some great opportunities to learn. As we talked about, the Brett and the team at Dell have a session on Tuesday the 20th at 3:30. The Big Data Beard team has a session. It's Splunk for You Track 1337, and our friends at Mckeown have a session. So lots of motorsports inspired and sessions I think you'll find interesting. Here we see Westy trying to fight his way back up the leaderboard. He had a few wrecks here, losing it. We hate to see that, but I tell you what, it's finally nice for me to break the cycle of finishing every time and following Westy around the track. Nice to be out in front for once.
Yeah, Corey. Now, there's still a lot of race left, so let's see if you can hold it.
I probably won't, let's be honest. Although I will say, one of the things that's been the hallmark of my racing so far has been a lot of clean, consistent laps. I am clearly not very fast, and I don't blame that on the car, but I've been pretty consistent.
Yeah, you definitely have your bar of Dove soap with you every time you race, Corey.
I do like to be clean, that is for sure. There we see Buttercup challenging their way up the track again, trying to find their way to the top of the leaderboard. Now, you see, this is the interesting thing that happens. You know, you've got this really diverse group of racers, so you get these battles that aren't really battles for position, but you got lap traffic, keeping it interesting, and hopefully they're still having a great time racing and continuing to push the limits. And that's the great thing about simulation platforms. They really are open to all, include all, and you really get to compete. In this scenario, it's a lot of folks with diverse talents, but iRacing makes it possible to compete with folks like yourself. But hey, let's go check in with Brett's got a great conversation with the SRE lead from Dell.
Hey, I'm here with Tanuj Arcot, who is the lead site reliability engineer for Dell Technologies. Hey, Tanuj, thanks for joining us today. It's always great to have you talk to us about the amazing things you and the team are doing with Dell.com.
Hey, thank you, Brett. Thank you for inviting me for this amazing session.
Yeah, I mean, you're no stranger to Big Data Beard. We always love having you join us because your team does amazing work around Splunk and how you guys are using Splunk. Obviously, everyone knows Dell Technologies. Everyone knows Dell.com, and it has been a pioneer in the e-commerce site. But I don't really think everyone knows just how big and how important Dell.com is overall. So can you just start out by explaining the magnitude of Dell.com?
Yeah. Dell.com is, if you think of it, like the 5th largest website or the e-commerce platform in the world. So it is quite big. We manage a lot of infrastructure and a lot of applications interconnected with each other, and the scale is massive.
Yeah, I mean, with it being the 5th largest website in the world, we're talking, in magnitudes of billions of dollars of revenue. So obviously, uptime, availability, and reliability is critical, not just to Dell as a business, but to customers being able to get what they want. How are you using Splunk to ensure that Dell.com is always up and running and performant for customers to be able to access the site?
Yeah, keeping it up is really, really critical for our business, like you said, right? Billions of dollars worth of sales that happen on our site. So to start off with, right? So it's important for us to kind of gauge how our customers are navigating through our site. Mm-hmm. So if you now see the trend, right? So there is no such word as outage anymore. So availability is no longer measured by outage. Mm-hmm. Slow is the new outage. Like several of them have started to talk about slow being so measuring the speed at which our customers are already seeing the pages load is very, very critical for us and our business, be it IT or business. And from that point on, how we have been using that particular data to capture from the speeds from the client browser, how it interacts with our UX applications and our dependent services. It's very, very critical to lay it out and to see the end-to-end view and a bird's eye view of the entire ecosystem has become very, very critical for us. And to pinpoint issues exactly where they are happening and where the latency is tremendously important. So that's where we wanted a tool that can manage all this data, and what better tool can we have than Splunk? Because we're able to see that real time. That is the key for us, real time data of where things are, and globally.
Yeah, that's great. So the biggest thing is when I want to put something in my shopping cart and I want to buy it, I don't want there to be any performance lags, right? I want to be able to buy it right away.
Yeah.
Now, Splunk is, we've talked about it in the past that Splunk and the evolution of Splunk is a journey. And I think you guys have gone through or going through that journey today. Can you talk a little bit about how you started with Splunk and kind of how you evolved your Splunk environment for this critical task of managing and ensuring that Dell.com is always performant?
Yep. So I started with Dell in late of 2015 and got introduced to Splunk in around 2016. So when we initially started, we used Splunk as just a log parsing tool. That's how the introduction to me was given. Very soon, I realized that it is not a log parser, but it is a data engine, like basically a big data play, and a much more data analytics play than just log parsers. So when we started, it was 100 gigs a day. And now, when you look at which part of Dell we are looking at, it's more than like 20, 25 terabytes a day that we kind of ingest. So the evolution has grown organically. So people naturally levitated towards Splunk. There were a lot of other tools out there, but they saw the possibility of unstructured data, how you can just throw any type of data and it can process it amazingly. That is the power, and all grew organically. And today, it started off with 50 users. Today, we are 4,500 plus users in our environment.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know, it's interesting when you say that's such massive growth and from an ingestion standpoint, but obviously that also relates to new use cases and the addition of use cases. So can you talk a little bit about what some of those new use cases were that led to the explosion of growth from 100 gigs to the 20 plus terabytes of ingestion?
Yeah, it started off as a small pocket for an application. And so we started looking at the logs and kind of started correlating it. And we soon realized that this is not enough. We want to know what is happening in the infrastructure, the database tiers. And so as soon as we realized that, we started ingesting other things and started to see a pattern emerge that the cause and effect was happening. So applications were calling a database. Database was dependent on the servers, and servers were dependent on the storage, right? So when there is a latency in the storage environment, it affects the hardware and the database, and then the application has the impact, right? So as we emerged that way, we started to realize that we need more data to kind of use it and correlate it in a time series way, right? Then the advent was, now that we are able to do it for the IT operations, why can't we do it for our business? So it naturally evolved that the real-time processing capabilities of Splunk played a big role into bringing the business metrics also. Now you can correlate a business impact with an IT outage or a slowness or latency as well. So cause and effect is much more easier, and we can stop the blame game between, oh, it's IT's fault or business fault. At least the data set is available, making it much more transparent to everybody.
No, that's awesome. Now, you know, through this evolution, you guys have onboarded new tools. I know you guys incorporated ITSI a couple of years ago. What are some of the new tools from the Splunk portfolio that you are evaluating or that you are incorporating into your environment now?
Yeah, so we have been a big ITSI player over the years, and we have gained tremendous insights from ITSI. But once we get the broader picture of the entire ecosystem, where the latency is and where the issues are happening, what do we do with that great visibility? We were trying to take actions manually after that. We see the issue, we take the actions manually. So the next evolution was automation. What do we do to auto heal some of these things? Not everything can be auto healed, but some, yes, repetitive tasks we can auto heal. That's when now we are venturing into Phantom. When I first started with Phantom, I thought, oh, this is just for security. But to my amazement, the framework is so flexible that you can kind of integrate any number of apps. The ecosystem is great, so you can just add any kind of apps and to start integrating and orchestrating. And that is exactly what we are doing to automate with the great visibility that Splunk and ITS has provided. The natural progression is automation, orchestration.
That's cool. So you and your team always have such a big presence in conf. Last year you were on stage. What are you going to be doing this year? What are some of the things you're excited about for conf this year?
Yeah, we are definitely presenting our use case for Phantom, more specifically IT use cases. Check that out. We have some credit card fraud related use cases from database engineering use cases and server management, big IP management use cases, along with Splunk forwarder management also using Phantom.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to make sure that I check that out because you guys always give an electric presentation. And I highly encourage our audience to check it out as well. Tanuj, it's always great to have you join us on the Big Data Beard. You and your team do amazing work, and it's always exciting to see how you guys are pushing the thresholds of innovation with Splunk to help manage Dell.com. Thank you so much. And Corey, back to you.
Well, thanks, Brett. Always good to hear from the Dell SRE team. Not too much in the racing action, not too much has changed during the conversation, but I tell you what, that conversation with Tanuj Arcot is always one of my favorites. It was awesome to catch up with him and Scott Mosqueda from the SRE team from Dell last year in the RV when we visited Round Rock in the headquarters of Dell Technologies in the road trip to .conf. And, really love the story of how they're using Splunk to power SRE activities. Brett, I'm curious from your perspective, are we going to be able to hear that Dell story at .conf?
Yeah, absolutely, Corey. And one thing, in all of our conversations with Tanuj last year, this year, it's always just so exciting to hear. They're at the forefront of adopting a lot of Splunk technologies. And last year they were talking about mobility and all the things they've done with ITSI. This year at Conf, they're going to be talking about how they've adopted and incorporated Phantom into securing Dell.com, which is one of the world's largest e-commerce sites. So the session is going to be Wednesday, October 21st from 9:30 to 10 Pacific time. And that team always brings it. I highly recommend you check them out.
Absolutely. It's always fun to hear how, like you said, a top e-commerce organization uses the data to everything platform from Splunk to power security and IT in a really meaningful way. So definitely looking forward to that. And I do want to remind everybody that, just like we're having these broadcasts every day in the 10 days leading up to .conf, we're super thankful for our sponsors, and we've invited them to join us for podcasts as well. And actually today's podcast, we're going to dive in with the leadership team behind Dell Digital to hear more about how digital transformation is being put on display in real life for the team at Dell. So definitely go and check out your favorite podcast platform and search Big Data Beard to find that podcast.
Yeah, Corey. I mean, last year we had Jen Felch on to talk about Dell Digital, and a year later, with all the things going on in the world, I'm really excited to hear what they have done in 2020 and how everything that's just impacted the world, how Dell Digital is adopting and really adapting to it.
Absolutely. Well, we see Tomic continuing to build his gap. He's just exited the Mulsanne Straits.
Yeah, and Corey, these straits, like we've said continuously throughout this broadcast, they're long and you can get to the top speeds. We're talking 176, 178 for the Beamers, a couple miles per an hour less. But how do you go from 176 into some of these sharp turns as we're seeing right now? Like, what's the strategy there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that happens in these long straightaways is you really start to have to get mindful of your braking markers. And what you're looking for is physical indications of location on the track that tell you, hey, at this top speed, I know here's where I see it. See those blue tick marks on the left side of the track, the 100, 200, 300 markers. They're distance markers. And really you're trying to find those as you're coming down the track at that blazing speed to know when you should start applying the brakes and to what level. And candidly, one of the things that's really challenging is if you're running a racing simulator here with let's say a single monitor, that's like looking out the front windshield, but only the front windshield. You have a really flat surface, and it becomes kind of challenging.
So Corey, I'm racing with a single monitor. Does that mean I get some extra points or maybe some extra placements, like any advantage?
Well, you don't. Here's the thing. iRacing's really good about anti-cheating. And one of the things that you can do to improve your performance in a racing simulator platform is improve the immersiveness of your simulator. And one of the things that's really common for folks to do in iRacing is to go to a 3-monitor setup where you increase your field of vision from being, roughly 80 to 90 degrees to being really about 140 degrees or so, which really opens up to where you can see cars, out your window in what would be your mirrors or your side windows, to where you're able to see. And candidly, that's a big thing. And also VR is a huge sort of enabler for that immersive experience. But I tell you what, Tomic did not need too many tools other than his incredible skills to win that race. And I tell you what, I am super excited to see that little Gulf paint colored BMW come around the track. But I tell you what, it is surprising how hard the Splunk IT team and Hayter has absolutely tracked me down in this race, and super excited to, well, hopefully if I can hang on here, it looks like a second place finish, which will be super exciting as we come closer to the end of this race.
Yeah, you definitely are chugging away there. You're just trying to cross that line. Let's see.
My bar of soap clean races. It's all about the bar of soap. Well, I tell you what, let's go check in with our resident Splunk Trust member, Tom West, to find out what the data tells us about what happened in the race. And congratulations to all the winners.
Hey everybody, welcome to another post-race data analysis, this time at the historic Le Mans circuit. Now what I want to do today is just highlight how terrible my driving was towards the back end of the course in a series of bends known as the Porsche curves. And so what we've gone and done is we've gone into our dashboard and we've loaded up from lap 4 onwards my own speed throughout those corners to see if it can show me where I was going wrong. And a few things are quite interesting through doing this. We've removed laps 1, 2, 3 because other incidents such as traffic has more of a likely indicator that something's gone wrong. But certainly from 4 onwards, we're getting into the race so we can actually tell something here. And what we can see is if I highlight over lap 4, we had an incident towards the back end, and this tends to be where the trend is, where most of the incidents occur towards the back end of the turns, not the front end. So if we highlight over lap 4, we can see that we had an issue. If we go over lap 5, we can see that we did have a minor issue where we lost a bit of speed, but that was towards the front end of that section. The back end seemed to be doing all right. Lap 6, this is what we would want to see. This is what we want to see more of, this kind of trend. And what's kind of interesting is that as we approach the back end, it's one of the slowest approaches to that, which kind of gives an idea that maybe if we slowed down approaching that back end of the corner, we would get a better outcome. And what's interesting, if we go over lap 7, we've got a crash. Lap 8, another crash. Lap 9, we've got a crash. Lap 10, we've got no data because that was towed. And lap 11, we've got a pretty decent outcome there. But again, one of the slowest through the mid part of that, and quite heavy braking approaching that turn. So from my data, it definitely seems as though it was just purely going too fast into those corners. But that's what we found from our data. Do you have a better story that you can find? We'd love to hear from you. Please let us know. And thank you very much to our race sponsor today, Dell Technologies. Back to the studio.
Well, that's how things shake out here. I want to say thank you again to our friends at Dell Technologies for sponsoring an incredible race at a historic track. We are so thankful to their team and their partnership. And congratulations to the McLaren team for winning again. And Splunk, obviously, not able to take 1 and 2, but man, finishing 3 through 6. What an absolute showing. So cool to see the Splunk team represented well. Well, everybody, stay tuned. We're going to go check in now with our position 1, 2, and 3 winners for a quick after-race conversation.
All right, thanks a lot for the race, Corey. Here we have the winners. Tomic, congratulations again, Corey and Hayter. Congratulations, guys. How's it feel? It's starting to see a pattern here. Tomic, Congratulations, man. We also have another guest, Daniel Mckeown. Would you mind introducing yourself for the crowd as well, Dan?
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, so it's Dan Mckeown. I'm head of partnerships here at Mckeown Racing. Look after all of our commercial technical partners and esports as well. So I'm privileged to drive with you guys and Tomek, one of our young kind of academy drivers. So yeah, thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you on. We really appreciate you joining in on the fun with this. Tomek, I got to ask, you've been racing with such a high class of racers. Now you're racing with people whose day job isn't to race. What are you finding particularly challenging or exciting with that? I imagine we're not, being professional racers, there's a bit of a difference there for you. What are you finding the most challenging and the most fun around that?
To be honest, it's kind of fun not racing on that high of a level. Usually when I drive, I drive, it requires me full focus throughout, whereas here you can kind of chill a little bit more. On a little bit shorter tracks like we had in Laguna Seca actually, I didn't start Laguna Seca, but on those shorter tracks that we did in the previous days, traffic was quite a bit of a worry because, of course, not everyone was aware of faster cars being behind and all that stuff. And when I was racing with Nathan in the season opener, we had so many close moments with the traffic. So that's pretty much the main thing that comes with, the skill gap that is there, of course. So, yeah, but other than that, it's fun. I can kind of chill. Especially in Le Mans on the straight, I could really just do whatever I want because the straight was so long. So yeah, it's definitely fun and it adds a new experience. It's not just pushing throughout the entire race like what I have to do usually on the highest level.
Yeah, well, we've enjoyed having you. You've certainly been an inspiration to all of us and leading by example in how to be a great racer. Corey, yeah, how did you feel today? I mean, we're starting to see a trend here with you of starting to place here, man. You're starting to be a challenger.
But your dancing wasn't as good today as yesterday, so you got to pick that up a little bit more, man.
True.
Maybe
Yeah,
you've just been here too often now.
I didn't want to come across as being like kind of a punk for getting 2 podiums in a row and like the first time you get in, it's unexpected. It's like celebration, exuberance. That's totally welcome. But if you do it 2 times in a row, it's like, come on, don't be that guy. So
You've been there before, yeah.
I've been here before. I can act like it. Honestly, I'm still surprised. Candidly, it's one of those things that just the first lap, that first lap out, that cold tire problem of people going off that are competitive, causing damage that on a track like this, it shows up so evidently in that long straight and I know Hayter towards the end of the race was suffering with some of that same thing where if you have any aero damage whatsoever, your speed is just hampered, like your ability to do, to have the car perform at its highest level is hampered. And candidly, again, defensive driving today, stayed out of trouble, stayed out of contact with most of the folks, and having a car with aero that was not damaged allowed me, even though I'm not as good as Hayter, I was able to pull away from him just because of damaged car situation. So very excited to be here again and honored.
Yeah, Hayter, 3rd place, man. We're starting to see you on here quite a bit as well. How's it feel to win such a long track like that, such a long race?
It feels good. I mean, it's tiring. I mean, to keep that level of concentration. The car is moving a lot in the Porsche Benz, so it was very tricky to keep it on the track the whole time. Had a little bit of damage to deal with as well, so that was definitely challenging. Unfortunately, I touched a back marker that was moving around a little bit too much, but that's part of racing. You've got to deal with that, and I didn't. So I think you've got to keep cool, and you've got to be patient, and that's something that I'll have to learn going forward.
Yeah, it seems like the Porsche Benz wrecked a couple people today, and it seemed like it was probably one of the more challenging parts of this course. But Tomek, I'm interested, what do you think the most challenging part of the course was for you, and how did you kind of overcome that challenge in your race today?
Yeah, definitely the Porsche Benz were just the most difficult part. The back end was very slidey through there, and with quick direction changes and with how the McLaren behaves in general, especially on a baseline setup, it almost caught me out a few times. But when I pulled a bit of a lead after the first few laps, I was really cautious there, especially after spinning there in qualifying. So, it definitely was the hardest part. And of course, the first 2 corners on the first lap on cold tires were also a mess. And especially after what I did back in Silverstone, where the cold tires caught me out on lap 1. I really didn't want to repeat that. So, yeah, definitely the first 2 corners on lap 1, but overall, definitely Porsche Benz.
Yeah. Now, Corey, you had a little bit of a different setup today for your race. How did that help you or differentiate you in the Porsche Benz? But where was the drawback with the difference in your car versus Tomek and Hayter?
Yeah, so honestly, I drove the BMW because it's just a lot easier to drive, and I need every advantage I could get. And it's more akin to the kind of driving I'm used to: front engine, rear wheel drive. Right, I feel comfortable there. In the Porsche Benz, it was super stable. I never felt the sort of twitchiness and sliding that you guys were talking about. It was stable. I was upshifting and downshifting, able to have inputs really easily. I was even in that last turn, that left-hander, I'm power sliding out of that a lot of the time, and it's totally feels properly at the edge. The challenge, though, is that while I felt good there in the straightaways, when the McLarens were damaged, they're just faster. They're just flat out in the flats. It's just a faster, more aerodynamic car, and so I suffered there. It was obvious whenever we get into some of those early laps where we were close together, the McLarens just walk off and leave me. And in this historic setup with no S curves, like legit in that minute and 20 seconds, people were putting 4 and 5 seconds on me. So.
Yeah, and obviously, the track we raced today had some pretty big straightaways, so that's definitely a challenge to you there. Now, Hayter, what were your thoughts? Because you drove the McLaren, was the Porsche Benz the challenge for you, or is there anything else that was challenging for you today?
Yeah, I think. I mean, there's another. I don't know the name of the bend, but around the back where you've got a very high speed entry, you've got to turn, straighten the car up, and then hit the brakes hard, and then just keeping that balanced was really tricky. I think you've just got to get into a groove. You've got to find the limits, find the lines, and really be disciplined. And then you can get into some good lap times and be consistent. And I did do that. Just had that little incident towards the end of the race, which cost me some speed, and that was. That's the third step on the podium. So,
hey Dan, too. We wanted to chat a bit and ask a question. We've seen McLaren a bit pop up. We've seen Splunk a bit pop up. We've seen Dell Technologies pop up a bit. Could you share a bit around the partnerships that's happening with McLaren, Splunk, and Dell Technologies?
Yeah, so I suppose they're cornerstones really of our technical partnerships that support our race teams. So Dell provide a huge amount of hardware and support servicing for us as we go racing. So we've got to stand up an entire garage every 2 weeks around the world. That's not an easy thing to do. And Splunk are really helping us, enable us making decisions quicker. So using a lot of their analytical platforms. I mean, we harvest up to 1.5 terabytes of data over a race weekend out of 2 cars, and having to analyze that in real time to make decisions, that really do make a difference between hundreds to sometimes a thousandth of a second over a weekend. So that's the two partnerships. We work with Arrow Electronics as well, who have joined us for this too. So we're nicely placed with some great partners, and we have a lot of fun with it as well. So it's not all kind of hard work. This is the great fun part of it that we get to play as well. So lots more to come from all of those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, huge win for everybody. Anybody in specific that you'd like to thank or give a shout out to?
I want to say a huge thanks to Dell Technologies for sponsoring this race. What an awesome event! What an awesome track! Dell Technologies, obviously a global partner, so it's very cool to have them sponsoring what is a awesome just piece of road motorsports history in Le Mans, and our chance to race with them. So huge thanks to Dell Technologies.
Yeah, thanks again. Dell Technologies, really appreciate the sponsorship for this event and this race specifically, and we'll see you out there tomorrow. Thanks again.
Congratulations.